Hey guys, Mysterious Man Toby, and today's video is going to be on leader switch. So, leader switch adds an overwhelmingly amount of options, whether we're talking about movement, aggressive, or defensive. It's undeniably the most important thing in this game, and thinking you can become a top player without it is not an intelligent decision to make. Not saying it's impossible, but I just don't think it's smart considering the top upper echelon of play are able to just use this so effectively that it's really going to be a struggle. It's going to be a fight for your life, so to speak. And I heard a lot of people early on in the game's lifespan saying they weren't going to really learn how to switch, even though leader switch combo was at its most broken version back then, where it was literally possible to do a whole combo with an assist character. Anyways, I don't want to rant about things that don't really matter to you guys, so like we've always done, let's get into the guide. First, I would like to explain how to make switching and safe. When you switch without inputting another action, you'll notice the character incurs a trip-like animation where you cannot block. However, this is solved by simply inputting another button, which can be anything. However, if you want to just stand in place and block, you have to tilt the analog stick and block. The reason I say tilt is because if you hold the analog stick down hard and you block, you'll get a guard shuffle. If you want more info on jump guarding and applying a tilt motion with your analog stick to do it, I would suggest checking out my how to jump guard video. Anyways, let's move on. So first, I want to cover the core advantage of applying leader switch to your defense, offense, and movement very briefly before we get into the meat of the guide. I feel that having a good understanding of this first allows you a better understanding of how to apply leader switch in general to these scenarios. I'll provide later in the guide, and more as you experiment in your free time. Leader switch in conjunction with your movement. Applying leader switch to your movement allows you to always have a mix-up in general. If you don't want to commit to a certain direction or action while moving, you can simply switch. Leader switch in conjunction with your offense. Offensively, leader switch allows for more mix-ups and baits. I'll cover those in much more depth later on, but for now I will say that in its simplest form, adding leader switch to dashes, projectile throws, combo attempts, and much more prohibit your opponent's escape options or essentially just limit them overall. Leader switch in conjunction with your defense. And lastly, defense. Leader switch allows you to make things safer. For example, you can counter, and should your opponent not dash, you can switch and remain safe. This same ideology also applies to other things like just missing a grab, jutsu, combos, etc. I would say that learning how to apply leader switch to your defense is most important, since it means the opponent will have a hard time getting in if it's mastered. First and foremost, as I have said, we are going to look over leader switch dash. So first of all, how to execute leader switch dash. It's actually pretty simple. How I like to do it is I like to press triangle or whichever button you have designated the chakra. Simply light your chakra button up, switch, and as soon as you switch, like literally the moment you flick the stick, press your dash button, whichever button you have mapped to dash. I have X, so I press X, and then boom, I get the leader switch dash. The way to practice this is just like how I'm doing it in training mode. Literally set your chakra to normal, and if you execute it right, you should see your chakra gauge. Literally, it'll show that you've lost chakra, but once you've executed the maneuver, the chakra will just reappear, as wonky as that is. So literally once you see that, you know that you've executed the maneuver properly. Leader switch dash is good for the sole fact that it allows you to approach safely. The initial dash done by the character that you switched off of cannot be countered, meaning your opponent will either retreat or advance with his own leader switch dash. Either way, this leader switch technique allows you to put pressure on your opponent, who may just be jump guarding and just jumping away without worrying about putting yourself in harm's way. So yeah, very effective way to approach, and just amazing overall. Leader switch jutsu is done much like leader switch dash. You literally just light your chakra gauge up. I use triangles, so I press triangle, flick the stick, and as soon as my character comes in, I press whatever button I use to combo with. I use circle, so then I get my jutsu. Again, like leader switch dash, you want to sit in train mode, set your chakra to normal, so that if you're doing this right, what's going to happen is that your chakra bar is going to go down in a wonky fashion and then immediately go right back up. So yeah, that's the way you're going to practice this to see if you're doing it right. Leader switch jutsu is just amazing if done properly, because you lose no chakra, and the ability to use a jutsu is what you gain. So you literally lose nothing but the ability to use a jutsu. This is what makes jutsus like Chidori amazing. You can leader switch from Sasuke, and since the Chidori tracks, the opponent is forced to guard standing up, allowing you to continue your onslaught, because jutsus in general cannot be countered. Not only this, but leader switch jutsu is just an effective way to put pressure on your opponent for virtually no cost other than character recovery time. But in general, I mean, being able to use a jutsu for no chakra cost is just, gosh, that's so good. And you definitely want to have this down, because the best players use it efficiently and they don't mess up, and man, this can really make or break your play. Now, getting into leader switch dash, or I don't know if this dash is called ninja dash or air dash. I believe it's called ninja dash. So essentially you just execute ninja dash, and it's a little weird to get down. You'll mess up a little bit at first, but essentially you just press your press whichever button you use to jump twice, and your character will just air dash like this. Literally, once you want to kind of buffer it and then switch, and so that's essentially how you execute this leader switch technique. Leader switch air dash is nothing more than a lopsided way of creating pressure. It's mostly situational, but I find it to be good for scenarios where your opponent is mashing counter on block. If executed properly, this will allow you to account for your opponent's counter while not giving up your momentum in advantage state. So literally, if they counter, your air dash will hit them, and either you'll get a combo depending on how fast you react to it, or at worst a block string. Of course they could counter again, but I mean literally they had to use 2 counters to get out of that, so that means less resources and less chakra for the time being. So yeah, overall it's an interesting way to go about using your leader switch, and I think that you should learn it, just because it's always good to have that one more option that literally could lead to you winning a game. So before I get into explaining why I'm calling this leader switch projectile throw easy, I'm just going to tell you guys how to execute it. So simply just throw projectiles and literally switch. Literally light up your chakra gauge, throw them, and immediately switch. Or don't, just throw them regularly and switch. And boom, that's how you do this maneuver. It's actually very easy. And beware though, when you do it in the air, you actually move forward after you switch, but you can cancel that animation with another projectile throw. And to bat, you can also cancel into your other character and do it again, and just kind of stay in the air and just really antagonize your opponent and keep them guessing as to when you're going to come down. So that's pretty interesting, and I've actually caught people off guard with it, but don't use it overzealously, because it can be punished, and better players are going to literally blow you up for this. So essentially, for the leader switch projectile throw easy version in this guy, I designed this guy for beginners. So that's the reason why I only wanted to show you an easy application of it in this guy, but I will make a part 2, or rather an advanced version of this guy that builds on things like this. I just don't want to overwhelm any beginner that may stumble upon this video. This is because using the more advanced version of this requires very strict timing and can be frustrating. Leader switch projectile throw in its simplest form can, as I said before, allow you to continue pressure either on block or just from a distance, although the more advanced application of it opens up a slew of possibilities. So yeah, stay tuned for that if you're interested. So leader switch combo 1 hit, in terms of the name, entails what you probably suspect at this point. This is the easy application of leader switch combo, and again, just like leader switch projectile throw, I will include the advanced version in the advanced guide or part 2. I just don't want to overwhelm beginners. So leader switch combo, how to execute it? Literally, it's literally doing a tilt but with the right analog stick. And if you don't know how to do a tilt, boom, here's the video. There's a video. There's going to be a link in the description to the video, and I'll actually probably comment the link in the description to the video, because you should learn how to do a tilt. If you don't know how to do a tilt, this video that I made will teach you how to do a tilt. And so essentially, once you know how to do a tilt, or if you already know how to do a tilt, literally apply that same logic but to the right analog stick. So you're going to literally flip the right analog stick and then press your combo button. So at that moment, you'll be able to literally do the first hit of a combo with whatever support character you switch into. And this also works with air combos. So anyways, leader switch hit is just an effective way of keeping your opponent in place, or simply accounting for a counter attempt in close quarter situations. As you can see, if you're within combo range and you feel like your opponent is going to counter, you can switch hit, and on hit follow up with a combo, or at worst, a block stream. It's also super effective when used with characters that have a big hitbox on their first hit, like Kisame or Kakashi. So leader switch counter hit, how to execute it. So to execute leader switch counter hit, it's essentially like doing a tilt but with the right analog stick. So essentially, like I showed you guys with leader switch combo 1 hit, literally take that that same ideology and apply it with leader switch, but obviously you're going to use the inputs for leader switch. So guard and projectile throw, whichever buttons you have mapped to those. And then, yeah, flick the stick, counter. Or you're going to counter first and then flick the stick. And it's really important that you do this kind of preemptively, because if you try to like counter and then switch as soon as they hit you, you won't get it. You'll actually get a weird moment where you'll try to switch, but you'll just get the regular old counter and knock the opponent back. And in some cases, if you aren't fast enough after you execute counter and then switch into your other character to take advantage of it, you may get a scenario where you're about to attack, but you're not quite fast enough, so you get knocked back anyway. And with some characters, because of how slow they swing, you may not get it just because, again, of how slow they swing, the counter still activates anyway. So, leader switch counter hit, in my opinion, is simple, so I decided to include it. By switching at the time, you could land a counter. You capitalize on it with a full combo. This is huge as it allows you to take what was your disadvantage state and automatically turn it into your advantage state. Against weaker opponents, I usually give them a dash in various scenarios because I know they will not do this, but against better opponents, I have to completely change my approach in various areas. This tool alone is used so efficiently in top level play and is one of the biggest reasons why you see so many leader switch dashes and standstills. Of course, as I've said before, a dash done by a character you are no longer controlling cannot be countered, so it all makes sense why you see a lot of leader switch dashes. Not least, the last leader switch technique I would like to cover is basically leader switching and changing up the camera angle by essentially using a support that lasts long, dashing out of the way, and then switching to that support. Executing it is very simple. As you can see, I'm just calling out my support, moving, and then switching at various times. Very easy to do, switching into the support that I use. As you can see, this creates some interesting pressure situations and just wonky scenarios that can really mix your opponent up. If you watch high-level gameplay, they do this all the time, and so it's a very good, handy thing to know, and something you should definitely experiment with, and something that's pretty easy to apply, honestly. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this guide on leader switching in terms of the basics. More than likely I'm going to do a part 2, but for now I think this will really help a lot of beginners. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and of course comment with your thoughts on the video. Thank you guys for watching. This is Mysterious Man Toby signing off.